So, hello, today we are joined by Michael. Michael, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am Michael, 33 from Scotland. I am a detransitioner. Yeah, so that's who I am really.
Yeah. So, I saw you on Mr. Menno's channel and invited you on because we haven't had a detransitioner on the podcast yet. And it's good to get the perspective of someone who's been through all this stuff and come out the other side to help to raise awareness for people who don't understand why so many people are upset about what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you for having me. It's trying to find a place for detransitioners in society is very difficult when you have a large proportion of society that are against you, want you to detransition silently, and not actually speak out about the harm that was caused.
Yeah, so what have you come across since how long has it been since you realised that it was all a terrible mistake? And
So I'm still pretty new at detransitioning, to be fair. So May this year
yeah,
was when I stopped taking medication.
hmm
June was when I had my appointment with Sandyford Gender Clinic in Glasgow and told them that I was detransitioning. So take it as you are. If is it from when I stopped medicalising, or was it when it's on paper? If it's on paper, it's June.
yeah.
If it's stopping the medicalisation, then it's May.
Were you like caught up in all the language and everything as well when you were
Yes.
going through it?
Um, so I'll tell you about like my kind of process.
Okay.
When I was 25, I started a social transition. I believe that was 2018. That was when my referral went into Sandyford Gender Clinic. So during my social transition, because obviously, we're just adhering to gender stereotypes at this point, I was phoning Sandyford. I was telling Sandyford that, if you don't prescribe me these hormones, I'm going to kill myself. My mental health took a vast decline during these 2 years. Sandyford would put me back to my doctor. My doctor would put me back to Sandyford. Sandyford would then send me back to my doctor. So my doctor would send me to mental health services in my local area. My local area would say, we can't help you. It's about gender dysphoria. Go back to your doctor. It was a pinball of just going from one service to another. But the reason that Sandyford didn't want to do anything because I wasn't an official patient of theirs, I was still on the waiting list. So it's just a waiting list at the moment. You have to wait. You have to wait. We don't have any services available for anyone on this waiting list. You just need to wait. There were no safety mechanisms put in place. So the NHS have safety protocols. If you're getting a patient that's phoning up saying that they're going to kill yourself, the safety protocols are supposed to kick in, and you're supposed to do due diligence, whether that's, phoning the police, phoning the local mental health services, checking on them, sending someone out to their house, whatever the protocols may be. It's a duty of care they have.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing like that was done ever. So, I'm phoning them whether I'm walking to my work or whether I'm, in the house, I'm crying, I'm screaming at them, I'm calling them names, I'm becoming erratic and emotional because I think that this is the care I'm supposed to have. This is going to make me better. And yeah,
So were you like influenced by someone else, or is this just coming from you?
so I do think it is a social contagion. Um, I can't say that any one person kind of navigated me down the path. What had happened was I was part of, the LGBT, I was part of the gay scenes. I was around people from different lives. So I was around transsexuals, transgenders, transvestites, all the trans. I was around drag queens, gays, lesbians, and being told of, even being told of gay men that, oh, you're very effeminate, and then I was getting told off the trans identified individuals like, oh, you're like I was, and I turned out to be trans. Like, oh, you're very effeminate. You like high heels. You wear makeup, and bearing in mind at this time, Kelly, I was drinking a lot. I was taking drugs. I was trying to block out the trauma that I had at 18 when I was raped. So I'm kind of in the mix. I'm in a very vulnerable, intoxicated state all the time. So hearing something, it's that old saying, if you hear it enough, you'll believe it.
Yeah.
And I
So there's
heard it
quite,
that much, I believed it.
yeah, there's quite a gap between what happened to you at 18 to being 25. Were you struggling all that time?
Yes, struggling all that time mentally. I went through homelessness. I fell out with my parents because of my own self-destructive path that I was going on. You know, it's very hard for your parents to watch you kind of go down a route that they know you shouldn't be on, but they also can't stop you because you're now an adult. How can they step in and be like, enough? They tried. And as any good parent would, they tried to get me help. They, tried to set me up in a stable environment, but ultimately self-destruction is a very strong thing when someone wants to go down the path, and that's what I was doing. So I I decided that I was leaving my mum and dad's house. I was going to step away from them. The stuff that I was doing, I shouldn't be bringing under their roof. And I made myself homeless, and I was in and out of homeless units, in and out of homeless environments. Sofa surfing with friends, I would go out into Glasgow just to find a party to go to so that I had somewhere that I could pass out. And it was that environment that I was in.
Sounds really like chaotic and not healthy. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it was,
you weren't getting help then, but possibly because you didn't feel like you needed it or wanted it.
yeah, both. Well, it was a mixture of I didn't see that I was having an issue. I put it down to, oh, I'm a young lad that was just,
You're just
going
going
out and
out a lot.
drinking and partying. I'm just enjoying my life. I'm growing up. Well, hey, I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah,
Um, but then I didn't have the stability that you need to actually source help. So, even if I went for counselling, even if I went for, therapy for drugs, for alcohol, therapy for the day, what was I then going to leave the therapy to go back to? I was in a homeless unit. There's other people around me with different traumas that I'm experiencing. There's other people around me that are drug abusing. There's other people around me with alcoholism. So I'm going to try and deal with my trauma while living in a traumatic
yeah.
environment.
And I know even like the services, because my background's in the voluntary sector, so I've seen like how some of the services respond to like referrals into them. And if there's like, if you've got more than one thing going on, they're like, oh, well, we can't take you because of that. We can't help you with that. And then you end up just falling through all the cracks, which is really frustrating because surely they should be focused on the bit that they can help you with and then working with other organisations, and that doesn't always happen.
Yeah. It's so grossly underfunded, mental health services also. There's waiting lists so long. People are waiting 2 years to even just to get a basic, therapy appointment. And it's catastrophic that we're living in a time and day that, we're spending more money it's trying to medicalize humans than we are actually trying to deal with the trauma that they've got.
Absolutely. And it's not talking therapy that people get, it's CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, which doesn't deal with the underlying trauma or issue that you've got. You need like proper support. Like cognitive behavioural therapy is great for certain things, but it doesn't deal with the underlying issues.
Yeah, it's not a trauma-based therapy,
No,
you
no,
know.
it's very much practical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So that brings us up to the referral going in. So the referrals went in. I've waited. I've done all my phone calls, threatening suicide. I get to Sandyford's. So I had my first appointment in 2020 with them. At my first appointment, they go through a history. So they go through what was Caitlin like as a child? Did Caitlin have discomfort with their genitals? Did Caitlin grow up in a nice environment? Was her parents supportive? Was her parents not? Um, you know, just a kind of, you'll know yourself, you probably do it in your line of work where you're building up a kind of background of
picture of,
the
yeah,
patient that you're seeing. Um, so that had happened and then went on to speak about, the background, it then kind of led into, well, where are you now in life? And I was saying, well, I've been using alcohol as a kind of coping strategy. My mental health has declined. Like, I feel like I'm in a very bad position, but I also feel like it's attached to the fact that I've had to wait for 2 years. So now I'm here, I feel a lot better. I know that the ball's moving. I'm no longer waiting at the bus stop for the bus to come. I'm on the bus. The journey's
yeah.
beginning.
And you've got hope. that things are going to
Exactly,
change. Yeah.
exactly.
So you've already
So,
got the name then. You've got your name,
yes,
Caitlin.
so name change was done. I had a job. My job knew me as Caitlin. At this point, I'm using female spaces. Um, dressing feminine, I'll say.
Yeah, what sort of
So I'm,
work were
I'm
you doing?
call center work,
All right, okay.
which was
Yeah,
quite a weird job to have, being trans identified. I'm using quotations in everything I say here, but
yeah,
trans identified, because no one can see what you look like, no one can see what you're presenting as. They can only hear a voice. Now,
yeah,
I'm very calm, I'm very gay,
yeah.
I've got a very gay voice. So they don't know that I'm trans. So they're not
No.
calling me Caitlin. Every time I say the name, they're calling me Kaylin or Callan or
So they're getting
Callum or,
confused.
yeah, they're never calling me Caitlin. They're never saying she, her. So I'm working in this environment where I'm trying to be something I'm not, but other people are clocking me in every phone call that I'm taking. So it's quite distorting. But I need to work. I need to make
Yeah,
money. I need
yeah, of
to have some
course.
sort of stability coming in, and I'm
Hmm.
drinking at this point also, so I need to make money to get alcohol. I can't not work. Um, it was such a weird kind of wave of emotions that I kept going through, because one person might have actually picked it up and been like, "Oh yeah." So then I changed that on the phone. I would say, "Oh, my name's Kat," and I'm
Okay.
like, it's a very clear name, Kat. That's people will hear that. There's no mistaking it for anything else. So I would get called Cat, but I'd still get called he, him. And I had one person, and I'll always remember him, bless him. And he's an older gentleman, and he's got the old man voice as you hear, and you can, he's on the phone for a conversation, and he goes, Cat, Cat, that's an awfully weird name for a guy. And I was like, I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't want to correct him. I can hear that, this person is elderly. I don't want to make him feel any particular way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a woman. Like, I've just got a very masculine voice. And he's, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I shouldn't, like, see now looking back at it, the amount of people that I must have made feel uncomfortable by correcting them, it makes me sad thinking about it. Like,
Yeah. I've worked in a call center and it's bizarre because obviously I'm a Geordie, so I've got a distinctive accent. And obviously, when I worked in a call center, it was people all over the country and they loved talking about my accent and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I'm just wondering how you, and yeah, there's like lots of people who are like frustrated by having to use a call center anyway because they've had to wait on the phone and then if listening to that awful music and then like sometimes you get cut off or and then you have to go through all the scripts. But then you've got like you often get angry people on the line where they're like just furious at you, and obviously it's not personal, but then you've got all the colleagues as well, like who you're working with. So how were
mm,
they with you?
fine. No one,
Uh-huh.
no one questions anything. I think people in their workplace are more reserved than they are in their everyday life. So there might have
Yeah,
been
you
people
have
that
to
didn't
be.
agree with it, but they
Hmm.
would never say that they didn't agree with it.
No.
I, I dare say that the company that I worked for pushed a lot of let's be inclusive a bit too much, to the point where they started changing things with emails, and you then started to have pronouns at the bottom of your emails, and I didn't do that. Like, it felt awkward to me. I think it was at that point that I kind of started to see what was happening, and I'm like, I don't like where this is going. Like, this is going to make me the villain by doing stuff like this,
Right. So
and
having the pronouns made you feel uncomfortable.
it was forcing people to include them into their emails
Right.
that was
So was
making me
that
feel
what
uncomfortable.
was there an email that went round saying, "Oh, you've got to do this"?
Yeah, it was the kind of update of the inclusivity policy that was going on, and then eventually it got. I don't think anybody cared, but I did, because I didn't want to become the villain of the call center. I spoke to management about it. I spoke to senior management. I even went as far as to speak to the CEO about it. And I'm like, what you're doing is you're painting a target. It should be an optional course of action if people want to do it. great. If people don't want to do it, then it shouldn't be part of any policy, because you're then saying if you do not do this, we're going to hold you responsible for not doing it. And that's counterintuitive to what you're trying to do by being inclusivity. Being inclusive means including everybody's opinions, not just mine, but everyone's, even if it's people that is against who I am, it's still including that person and giving them the option rather than forcing them gives the inclusivity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where a lot of women struggle when they're being told, you know, you must do this, you must do that, and then, you know, it's a problem because of all the rest of the stuff that goes with it. And once you call someone who's a man a woman, then how can you say, well, I feel uncomfortable with her in the toilet?
Hmm.
It's really
Yeah.
difficult.
It puts especially women into certain situations. You know, there might have been women in the call center that I worked at that was uncomfortable with me being into the toilet, but at that point, I didn't care about anybody's comfortability. I was selfish. I was in the mindset of if you don't affirm, you're against. So why should I think about your comfortability if you're against me? You don't think about mine.
So part of you wasn't like you weren't pushing the pronouns thing on the emails, but part of you was pushing some of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, I don't know how to explain it, but I was a TRA, but I still had something in me that says it's not right.
Yeah,
It's not right, you know. But I also was under the impression that if I go into male spaces dressed as I am, I'm going to be attacked. I'm going to
yeah,
be hit. I'm going to be shouted at. I'm going to be screamed at. I'm putting myself in risk. So where
yeah.
is the safest place for me?
Because you've been told that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all over the news, and you know, you go
yeah,
online onto social media and it's all any, you know, and it's I'm not looking at the kind of GC side of it. I'm not looking at the gender critical side of the debate at this point. I'm solely focused on the TRA side. So I'm absorbing the information from TRAs and
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. Because algorithms, and a lot of women didn't speak out for a long time because it was dangerous for women to speak out.
Mm.
So yeah. So yeah, so you're working in the call center. Was there an accessible toilet that was like for mixed sex that you could have
Um,
used?
Not a kind of unisex or, you know, a gender diverse toilet, if you will. It was just the disabled accessible
Yeah,
toilets. But you know yourself working in call centers, every single code you go into, it's timed. Your breaks are timed, your
yeah,
lunches are timed,
yeah. So was
toilet
that
is
further
timed,
away?
and it was all the way down the stairs.
Right.
So I would have to go all the way down the stairs. So towards like the end of me working into the call center, I was more GC leaning. So at that point then I was using the third space.
Right.
So and I had been pulled up with it. Oh, your toilet time is, you know, went from 10 minutes this week to 20. And I'm like, well, build a disabled toilet up the stairs then. Build an
Yeah.
accessible toilet up the stairs then, because
Yeah.
I'm not using female toilets anymore and I'm not going into the males. So
Yeah.
use provide a space for me or provide me more time to get to the toilet that I'm more comfortable in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because, and of course, there's a debate about whether people should be using a third space, the disabled space, because obviously that is for people who have a disability. Would you have classed yourself as having a
Yes.
disability at that point? Yes.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
mental health issue. It's
Yeah.
but so the this is why we need to change the language also when it's surrounding disabled toilets. It's not solely for anybody with a disability. It's
Yeah.
accessible toilets.
Yeah.
I have severe anxiety when I go out into society. Does that make me physically disabled where I shouldn't have access to this toilet
No,
because
absolutely.
it, you
And
know,
yeah, I've my background, I've worked with people who are disabled, and I had some like often when I was working with people, there was some horrific paperwork, very bureaucratic, because it was like funded through Europe and stuff. And a lot of the questions and how we were trained to sort of respond to them was, do you class yourself as having a disability? And it does really upset me when people have a go at someone who they think doesn't look disabled because like you can't tell by looking at someone whether they've got a disability or not, and it's not for anybody else to judge.
And this is why we need to change the language surrounding it. So I'm on TikTok and I do a lot of debates on TikTok. And when, people say, oh, would you want me to use the disabled? I always say, no, use the accessible toilets. It's
Yeah,
accessible to anyone.
yeah,
Like, use them. Like, it's not just for people in wheelchairs. It's not just for people with walking sticks
yeah,
or crutches.
yeah,
Yes, we have them in place so that they can kind of navigate in society to the full extent, but it's also for people with anxiety, with depression, with
absolutely.
bipolar. Like, it's also for anyone that has a debilitating um, mental health issue that needs to
Yeah,
use it. Like, and
absolutely.
that includes gender dysphoria. If you
Yeah,
know that you're going to make women feel uncomfortable in their space, but you yourself do not feel comfortable in the male space, then that is an accessible toilet that you can use.
yeah, absolutely. And then you're in there on your own, and like
Exactly.
it doesn't cause a problem unless there's a queue. But often I don't think I've ever seen a queue outside of a disabled accessible toilet. Yes. So with
33 years I've been on the planet and not once have I walked into a place and seen a queue for an accessible toilet.
yeah, which is good because often people who need to use them sometimes need to use them quickly. So yeah,
And if there is
that
a
is
queue,
good.
wait. If there
Yeah.
is someone that, two people approach the toilets and it's someone who is wheelchair bound or crutches, step to the side, let that person go, and then you go in. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, use your common sense here, guys.
Yeah. So that was a good we kind of went off on a tangent there because you mentioned your
Yes.
work and I really wanted to ask you about that. But what we were talking about before was the process of going through the clinic. So shall we go
Yeah.
back to that again?
Yeah. So, had this first appointment, right? So now we roll round to a second appointment because um, you need to see two psychiatrists to get a diagnosis for gender dysphoria. So the second psychiatrist that I've seen is known as the gender specialist in terms. They're the ones that are going to prescribe me the medication. So again, it mimics the first appointment. It goes through the history. Tell me a bit about yourself. How do you feel now? They ask the question of, well, we can see from your records, that you've phoned up and you've been suicidal, and how are you feeling? I says, oh, I'm great. I says, that was just because I was on a waiting list. Don't worry about that. I
Okay.
feel fine now. And they're
Okay,
like,
so you
all right,
minimize
okay,
that.
yeah, all right, okay. So we'll just put that down to stress. But yeah, stress. That's it. That's the one. And the paperwork for the first appointment, it says that Caitlin would be an ideal candidate for therapy. In the second appointment, he said that I didn't need therapy because all of the issues were relating to the waiting times. So no therapy needed. Um, and we'll just start medicating you. Now, Kelly, they know, right? So they've seen firsthand, right? They've got the calls recorded in there. They've seen and heard firsthand me threatening suicide, me telling them I'm going to cut my wrist, me telling them that I'm going to overdose myself. They know about my history. I told them that I was reliant on alcohol, right? It's in my paperwork where it says that I used alcohol as a coping mechanism. Um, they
And
know
that
all
was a
of
current
this.
thing as well at that point.
Yeah, I
They knew
showed
it
up
was
to my
current.
appointment stinking of vodka.
Yeah.
So they must have known I was drinking vodka on a train going over.
And if they
Like,
didn't, they should have been asking
yeah,
if they knew
and
that it
vodka's
was
a
a
very
past
distinctive
issue.
smell.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up like trying to hide the fact that I was 15 and standing up the park with my friends having a little beverage. Like,
Yeah.
I tried everything, mints, chewing gum, milk, nothing hides it.
Yeah.
So, we're in this situation now where yes, I was an adult, but how much of the responsibility should one take? I take as much as I possibly can. And, I think the NHS have an element of responsibility here. As I say, like, they have, it might be an informed consent model that we follow, but where do we stop the informed consent model? Where do we then step up and the doctors be like, well, I'm more trained in this area, so I know better type of thing? So
So how old were
someone
you at
with
this point when you're accessing medication?
um 27,
Okay, so you are a bit older.
27. Yeah.
But did they explain what the consequences of the medication was? What the side
To an
effects were
extent,
and stuff? Okay.
yes. So to an extent. So I was offered the ability to freeze my sperm. Um, I was told that, this has got an increased risk of breast cancer. And I was told it in the way that you are more at risk than other males of getting breast cancer
Okay, because of the
because
estrogen.
because of the estrogen, yeah. But we know that I'm not at the same risk as what you would be as
Mhm.
female, but I'm at an
Mhm.
elevated risk as a male. Um, Heart attacks, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, these things were all told to me that these are the side effects we know about, but we don't know what it would be like in 40-year time because we don't know. So they can't, no one can tell us what it's like after 40 years of taking estrogen, and estrogen isn't something that you stop. You stop taking a testosterone blocker once you get your surgery for down there, but you don't stop taking estrogen. Estrogen is
Okay.
what you're on for the rest of your life because your body will never naturally produce it. You can stop your body naturally producing testosterone, but you can't make it to naturally produce estrogen. So you're on synthetic estrogen for the rest of your life, and there's never been a long-term study that I know of to say, well, patient X has been on estrogen for 45 years, and these are the medical conditions. These are the
Yeah.
medical conditions we can attribute to the
But
use of
surely
estrogen.
those men exist, so they could do a study if they wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you see it. There's now that there's kind of in the forefront of the debate, we're now talking about, I think there was a BBC program, was it in the 70s or the 80s, where it was a group of trans-identified men that was talking about navigating life as a trans person. Is any of them still
Yeah.
with us? Can we, have a conversation with them? Can we ask them to participate in a study? Surely some of them are still going to be on estrogen. Or was it just a fetishistic behaviour that they were exhibiting and we allowed it to be on the BBC? Who'd have thunk?
So you don't, they might not have even been on estrogen.
We don't know. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
it's a weird world. So I was second appointment. I got approved for, well, what's the word? Tentatively approved?
Tentatively.
Tentatively approved for estrogen. The only thing that I needed to do at this point was get blood works done. Check my iron check my iron levels, my liver function, my prolactin, checking all of this. So once they had got that, I was then prescribed estradiol patches and a testosterone blocker. I can't remember what the testosterone blocker was called that I was on at that time because they changed it. Um, so I'm on the patches, I'm on the blockers. Now, what I've came to know or to learn by speaking to trans-identified individuals is that normally the route that they take is they start you on a blocker first, allow your levels to come down, and then introduce some form of estrogen. That didn't happen with me. I was put on both at the same time.
Okay.
So, my estrogen levels is going up. My testosterone levels are slowly coming down. They end up meeting in the middle. So for about a year, I was so erratic. I was angry. I was sad. Felt every single emotion that you could feel. I felt within that 1 year, and it was like that. It was constant ups and downs.
And was that something that was explained to you that might happen?
Yes, so they did say, it could kind of provoke a mood instability, but not to the extent that I did actually have it. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to understand. I'm going to notice when my estrogen levels are going up because, I'm going to become a bit more emotional, crying type emotion. Um, I didn't realize that I would become aggressive or erratic or, the suicide thoughts would increase and the self-harm ideations would increase. Like, I was never told any of this.
And were you being monitored at this point to see how you were getting on it?
So I was monitored by bloods. So I had
Okay.
blood appointments for every 3 to 6 months for about the first year. And
Was
then,
anybody talking to you about what was going on, or just was it just blood appointments?
In my first year, I had an appointment, I believe it was 6 months after I had started estrogen. It was either 3 or 6 months after I had the appointment to kind of catch up where I was, look at the bloods. Do we need to change our medication? Because the first year is very much medication based. We need to get your medicine to what it should be and where it should be. We need to get your levels to where it should be. So, the first year you're seen quite consistently, but it slowly goes away. So after the first year, it was every 6 months. After the second year, it was every, you know, 8 months. After the third year, oh, well, now we're only down to one appointment.
But like, is there a goal for taking estrogen? Like, what are they trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve with the estrogen? With the
So
change?
with the medical professionals, they're trying to achieve your estrogen levels going up to the same level as obviously what female levels are. So
Okay.
I think and I'm probably going to get this wrong, so correct me. But I believe it's in the 800 percentile, like quite high in estrogen, low in testosterone, high in estrogen. Obviously I'm not a specialist when it comes to blood, so I listen to what the doctors tell me, or your estrogen levels are just sitting at 725 and we need to get them up a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, whatever you say, buddy. Not even
Okay.
knowing what he's talking about. He's just hitting me with numbers at this
Yeah.
point.
But to me, like that, that's like a red flag anyway, because like, what's the goal when you prescribe medication? What's it to make better? Do you know what I mean? And the goal is to have a man with the same estrogen levels as a woman. But why? Do you know what I mean? Medically speaking, because obviously you want to transition, but it's physically impossible. Really, you can't become a woman. Like,
Exactly. There's no such thing as a transition.
and
Um,
when it's
you know,
medical, it needs to be quite concrete
hmm Yeah.
for the
The,
goal.
there is no such thing as a transition. It's just medicalization of human beings at this point. But
Yeah,
the goal for me was to present myself more feminine. Like as I said
yeah,
in Mr. Mano's interview, I didn't
yeah.
want to look trans. I wanted to
Okay,
look female.
like a woman. And
I wanted to have secondary sex characteristics
how did
of
you
a
feel
female.
on the estrogen? Did you feel like you achieved that?
No, I felt
No.
worse. It
Yeah.
gave me gender dysphoria being on estrogen. It made me feel even more uncomfortable. It made me get to the point where I hated looking at myself in the body. This kind of stuck in limbo situation. I've got gynecomastia on my chest now. I've went from 8 stone to 15 stone in 1 year. I've never been able to break the 10 stone mark as Michael, but now as Caitlin, I'm up to 15 stone. So I've got wobbly bits that I've never had wobbly bits before. So it's making me very distorted with my weight. Um, I had so kind of going through and growing up, my relationship with food wasn't the best one. I was told off a CPN that I had an eating disorder. Um, this was years and years back, but it wasn't, like bulimia and anorexia that we know. It was my relationship with food. I didn't see it as something to enjoy. I seen it as, right, well, I'm going to faint, so I'll eat now.
Yeah.
So going from having that mindset where, you're struggling to eat, you don't want to become fat, you're struggling with the kind of the weight issues, to then go from 8 stone to 15 stone in 1 year
Yeah, that's a
freaked me the
lot.
hell out. Like,
Yeah, I bet. Well, that is something that females have to deal with, I have to say. Fluctuating weight and wobbly
well, at least I
bits.
got that right.
Oh dear. Yes. So, yeah. So you've gone to the clinic, you've got what you want, but it actually makes you feel worse. At what point did you start thinking this isn't what I want? What started to change your mind and
It was throughout the full process. I was telling
right?
them, like, I was like, I don't know, something's not right. Like, I feel uncomfortable with myself, and I don't know if these are doubts that I'm having. And they were saying, oh, this is common. People feel like this. It's kind of because you're in a limbo stage, and once you kind of progress getting surgery, then you'll feel a lot better, and so which
So they're
makes
encouraging
sense.
you. They're
I
encouraging you towards surgery.
Yeah, I can see it as encouraging. I also think it's just a case of this is what the patient experience has always been. So that's what they're relaying to you. But instead of them, but that's it, that, this is the issue, Kelly. This is the direct issue though. It's an affirmation
Yeah.
approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a question someone approach. It's not a why is Michael, who was
Yeah.
Caitlin, now why are they
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this? Let's
Yeah.
dig a wee bit deeper and get some more information on this.
Yeah.
What I'll do actually is I'll follow the model that is in front of me that I have to legally follow, and I will just affirm. So for me to affirm, I have to tell you this, that's okay, Caitlin, it's okay. You'll be
Did
fine once we
anyone
get you.
ever ask you about trauma during this whole
No,
process? No, not at all.
no,
Like, when did you
never.
start feeling like this? Why might it be?
Yeah,
Did you
never.
did you link it? At
Well, it
what point
was.
did you link
I
it?
didn't. I didn't until later on, this year actually, if I'm honest with you, Kelly. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think what they speak about is they spoke about how you felt during puberty. Well, I didn't feel comfortable during puberty. I hated my body.
Nobody does.
Exactly, but 98% of the British population probably hated their body through puberty. It's the most uncomfortable time of an adolescent's life, like, is going through changes like that. Like, I don't think I can put my hand up and say anybody has ever told me that they have felt happy going through that experience. They hated it. They couldn't wait until it was over and they were an adult because it's so uncomfortable. So it's when do we attribute that to? Is it just normal puberty feelings? Is it just normal feeling distressed because your body's changing from, a child to an adolescent to an adult? Or is it actually a gender dysphoric behavior? Like, where does it sit on the realm?
Yeah,
And in my case, it was normal puberty discomfort. I've it's even in my paperwork that I told them that I didn't want to remove my bottom parts. I didn't want it to be gone. Like I just didn't want it to be there.
yeah. So that's like, that needs exploration. Just the fact that you've said that.
Yeah,
So were you
exactly.
saying that all the way through as well? Like, I don't
Yeah,
want any surgery.
yeah. Oh, so that I did want surgery. Let me clarify. It was
Okay,
I by saying that I was saying I am not uncomfortable. So my end goal is to have surgery, but I
okay,
understand that I need to wait to get surgery, and I'm not uncomfortable with what I've got at the moment. You know,
okay. So you
that
did
makes
want
sense.
surgery, but just not yet.
Yeah, I did want surgery overall, but I'm not going to try and harm myself before I get to surgery because we see some extreme cases where people will take razor blades, and cut themselves down there. I'm not that case. I'm like, right, well, it's what I've got. Suck it up, buttercup. We'll get
Yeah,
to surgery eventually.
yeah. That needs
Mm,
exploration though from
yeah.
me. Like,
Why didn't
it,
I have the discomfort
uh-huh.
why didn't I exude the fact that, this is making me feel so uncomfortable and I need it gone and take it away from me, and why am I saying, it's all right. I'm fine.
Yeah,
I don't mind waiting. What to
yeah.
do?
So did they tell you how long it would take to get to the point where you would access the surgery?
Yeah, so the process to get the surgery, it is quite strict. That I think that is the only benefit of this model, is that it is quite strict. So you have to get two opinions that you're ready for surgery before being referred even. So one opinion will come from the doctor that you're under, and a second opinion will come from a doctor that hasn't worked with you before. So you would then have to see that doctor go through the full process again, and they both have to agree that you're an ideal candidate for therapy. Sorry, for bottom surgery. So then, if they agree, the referral sent and you're placed on a waiting list. I believe that there's 4 clinics in the full of the UK, none of which are in Scotland, they're all down south, that do this surgery. So they give you a list of the kind of clinics that do it, the criteria of that clinic, because they've got different criterias when it comes to weight, BMI, if you have your foreskin, if you don't have your foreskin, it's kind of different criteria. You then pick kind of which one suits you best, and they put the referral into that.
So were you
Um,
discussing this? with the doctors then?
Yeah, so I was waiting. I had my referral in. Now, this is a very interesting process that I want to talk to you about in depth.
Okay.
Um, so so that is kind of the normal route. You then end up going to your appointment. The appointment, you get told, right, you need to have electrolysis done down in that area because it will stop ingrown hairs. The different kind of steps that you need to take prior to getting the surgery itself. But overall, once you have your first appointment, it's normally about 12 months and you're in for your surgery.
It's
It's
not that
quite
long
a
then, is it?
very quick process once you've had your first appointment. Like, it's a 2.5 year wait to get the first appointment. But then when the first appointment's in, it's boom, 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 thick's gone. Like, it's wild how quickly it can go. But so here's the interesting part. So I just mentioned to you how you had to have two um doctors see you and sign off on it. That didn't happen with me.
Dear.
I had my doctor, and then I was speaking because I was getting so pissed off at the fact that I was waiting so long for a second doctor because doctors are leaving constantly. I had about 5 or 6 gender specialists throughout the full 5 years that I was underneath them. Like, they're constantly changing. Um,
That's odd as well. It sounds like the doctors who are doing this they're not comfortable with it.
Yeah, it's a high pressure environment. It's all about numbers. It's all about numbers. It's how many bums can we get in the seats? How many prescriptions can we get sent out? They've got a waiting list of 40,000 people, let's say. Well, they can only see a certain amount of people in a day. They can only see, but they only have an allotted amount of time for new appointments versus existing patients. And
Right.
they have to fine balance that. It's not like, well, Doctor A and B will deal with new appointments and Doctor C and D will be, existing appointments. They have to see both. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's the fine balance of it. So going back to what I was just saying there, so I have a gender recognition certificate, right? Um, and I was on a phone call with the medical receptionist there. And, I'm explaining to him, like, I'm getting so frustrated. I understand that there's a waiting list, but for the fact that I'm still waiting for the second opinion to even be put onto the waiting list, I'm knocking 33 at this point. I'm like, I'm getting older. Like, I'm going to be at a higher risk when I go under anesthetic. Like, you don't understand. I'm not young, fit, and a fiddle. Like, I'm getting into that age range where there's going to be more complications if it doesn't happen sooner. So he then says to me, "Oh, have you got a GRC?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I've got a GRC. How?" And he's like, "Because what we can actually do is use your GRC as a second opinion." What? Yeah, what we can do is, so we'll have the doctor sign off it, and then we'll have the GRC as your second opinion.
That sounds odd. What
What
did you
the
have to
fuck?
do to get the GLC?
So the GRC is you live within your chosen gender, it's they call it, for 2 years, have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and be able to provide evidence for this. So I had my diagnosis of gender dysphoria. I'd lived as Caitlin for more than 2 years. I sent all the paperwork away. So it was like council tax bills, bank statements, a letter from my employer, um, other things kind of to prove all of these records, are in the name Caitlin.
But it's nothing to
Sent
do with your medical history.
the
You know,
only part
I
of
would have thought that the role of the doctor is to assess you medically.
mm, well, it's not the medical professionals that deals with the GRC. It's
Yeah,
just a board of 3 individuals that they've appointed to a tribunal. That's it is. I don't even know who they are.
they're probably TRAs.
Yeah. And
Well, it'd
like
have to
this is
be,
the
wouldn't
thing.
they?
Well, this is the thing. You send all of this information away to them, right? And you're sitting waiting. They don't phone you. You don't get an interview. You don't even have so much as a phone call with any of these 3 individuals that have to decide if you're got to change your get a GRC. There's no interaction at all. So then I
Yeah.
phone up in December and I say, what's happening by it? And the lassie who's working there, she's checked the system and she's like, oh, I can see you've got it. They've given you a full GRC. Like, right, great. So that meant that I got a bit of paper that says that I'm female, but I got a new birth certificate, so
Okay.
it changed my birth certificate. So my parents' signature is on this new birth certificate. How is that?
How did they sign that then? Did they sign it?
No, it's a copy and
That's
paste situation.
that's outrageous. As a
What the
parent,
fuck?
I'd be absolutely furious if anybody did that to my children. Just
Like,
signed it.
how,
No,
how
that's
has
wrong.
that happened?
Whether they
Like, well,
consent to it as well or
yeah,
not, their signatures on
it's
it.
there.
That's
All they've
no.
done was change my name and change the sex that's on your
So
birth certificate. But
that is fraud though.
yeah,
Like
but
using
TRAs will
someone's
say sex and gender is different. So
yeah, but
why
then
the
so
hell do we
yeah,
even have this?
yeah, exactly. And why do men want to go into women's space as if sex and gender are different?
Exactly,
Why do you need to take drugs to make you have female
exactly,
hormones and all of this? Yeah.
exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly. So that's the kind of process for it. So now I'm kind of we'll jump forward. So for the I ended up dealing with my alcohol and drug use myself. Thankfully, I don't take any form of drug anymore. I have the occasional drink, but I'm now able to manage it where, I don't drink in my house. I drink if it's an occasion, a family
Yeah.
event, um, or, there's some times where I have drank in my house, but again, it's like the other day there, me and a couple of my turfy friends, if you will, did a kind of turfmas night out. So, we're on Discord calls, we're on social media calls, we're having a laugh and a joke and a drink, and that's the kind of way that I deal with it now is right, there's no more just sitting watching EastEnders with a glass of wine
Yeah.
because that glass of wine ends up two
The
bottles of
bottom.
wine and
Yeah.
and then the next thing you know it's 5 o'clock in the morning and you're waking up with a hangover and grumpy as hell and what did I do last night situation. So I've dealt with all that, no help whatsoever. I've realized, listen, it's either continue down the path that you're going and you're going to go on to, heroin or crack or something and kill yourself, or it's step up and deal with it.
What changed your mind though? What made you actually go, right, this is not working. I'm just not gonna do this anymore. What was it? Was it gradual or was it one big thing?
It was, I wanted my family back.
Okay.
I was missing my mammy and I was missing my dad and I was missing just being able to speak to them. And I knew that Um, I at that point couldn't introduce them back into my life because of the drugs and alcohol. You know, parents are not stupid. Parents know something's going on with their kids, and if I was to rock up to my mum and dad's house drunk or on drugs or something like that, like they're gonna see that. They're gonna feel helpless that they can't help. So
So did they
I
know
knew
that they must have known that you were like taking drugs and drinking too
I,
much,
oh
but
aye.
had the senior doing it or
I mean, they'd seen me drunk, but I was an adult and I was, out enjoying myself. They didn't make the correlation between the trauma and the alcohol the same as I didn't for a while. But they didn't. They would never have ever seen me taking any
did
drugs ever.
did they say you as Caitlin as well?
No,
No, you didn't
never.
want to show them.
Oh no, so I presented to them as Caitlin, but
Okay.
they never affirmed me. They
Okay.
never treated me. They, in their
Yeah.
opinion, I'm Michael, their son, and I will always be Michael, their son.
Yeah.
If I want
Yeah.
to medicalize myself and dress in any particular way, then go do you. But don't expect us to conform to it,
And
which
how
was the
was that?
anchor that I needed. Oh, it was the anchor that I needed, though.
Yeah.
It's
But
what pulled me
was it
out.
annoying at the time?
At first, it was. Can't say it wasn't. That's why I cut them off, because if you don't affirm me, you're against me, and I don't need you in my life. But when I started seeing the issues with the TRA community and, what they're trying to peddle and the fact that, I'm then taking a step back and I'm looking, well, what is my history? Right. Well, I'm male attracted, so I'm a gay man. It doesn't, matter what hormone I've got in my body. That doesn't change. what's the history with gay people? Right, well, we were loud, we were brass, we were in your face, we got our rights, we screamed down the streets, we wore tutus and high heels with picket signs screaming, give us our rights just the same as everyone else. But did we actually take rights away from anyone? Did we invade people's spaces? We didn't. So why now are this 1% of society wanting to invade in people's spaces that they're not welcome into? Why are they wanting to take away females' rights to same-sex spaces? Why are they wanting to redefine what it is to be gay, what it is to be a lesbian? Like, I'm sorry, buddy, but lesbians don't have dicks.
No, they don't.
Like,
They
why
also
are
want to
we
redefine what a woman is.
exactly?
So a woman isn't like, according to their logic, a woman, like, you can't call yourself a woman, but a man can call himself a woman.
It's insanity. And that's where it was the turning point for me when I started watching, taking a step back and not looking at it as though um, I'm a trans rights activist. I must do X, Y, and Z. I must do X, Y, and Z. Let me formulate actually my own opinion here. What is really happening in the world? Seeing all of this, this is what I've been supporting for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you are really like right into it though. Do you know what I mean? Like you weren't pushing all of the narrative.
Mm. I always had a toe in, but a toe out.
Yeah.
One foot was in, one foot was out. Like, my intention, I think deep down, was to medicalize to fix the damage that had been done. My intention was never to remove anybody's rights in society. But
Hmm.
when it got to the point where I couldn't not see that, we had, I don't know if you remember the famous GameStop video, and it's the gentleman getting served, the cashier calls him sir, and he turns
Yeah.
around and shouts, "It's ma'am," and
Yeah.
then starts knocking everything over in the store.
Yeah.
This was when all of this stuff was coming out, and I'm sitting there and I'm honestly red-faced affronted, and I'm like, this is the type of people that I'm supposed to support and align with. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't.
Bit of an own goal for them then.
Yeah, it really was. It was turning people against. Like, I speak to, because I do debates and, I do stuff like this, I speak to trans-identified people quite a lot. Still as a detransitioner, I still kind of have a toll speaking to them. But there's two sides of even their own community. There's the side that just wants to navigate and live life
Yeah.
just medicalized, and we'll stay out of your spaces and we'll use third spaces, and like use leave us
Yeah.
all alone, and we'll stay out of your changing rooms and your DV shelters and stay out of your prisons, and we do need our own place. But then the other side that's like, no, you must allow me in. If you do not allow me in, I'm going to break down the door and say that it's ma'am, let me in. And it's like, you've got internal conflict here. We're like, why are you internally conflicting with each other?
Yeah.
And then you've got people like me who's a detransitioner that's coming out and standing against you. You've got people like yourself who's a woman that's now taking a stance and saying, I'm actually the woman here. Like,
Yeah.
all you men's piss
And
off.
yeah, men, you really don't want to experience what women go through. You really don't.
No?
And like, even if you accept that the man who says he's a woman is like, and you go along with it, and you take on board and let them into your groups because they've got like the right to be there or whatever. Like those support groups are to share with each other shared experiences, and I don't share an experience with those people,
Yeah,
like because they
exactly.
haven't grown up the way I have because I'm a female. So like even if you go along with it, you still haven't got the same experience.
hmm
So it's just
Exactly, Kelly.
yeah.
Exactly. So that's how I got put onto the waiting list for my second opinion, or for my bottom surgery. And then it's a 2 year wait. So I was at the top of the list because it's been 2.5 years at this point.
Right.
So it's quite scary.
So you're at the front
Um,
of the list, but you're not really that bothered about getting rid of
yeah,
it.
so it's quite
So
scary. So then No, where this type of year, so I'd been in a relationship for 5 years, it'd been in an abusive relationship. It didn't feel like I could come out of the relationship. I'm deconstructing my full life. So um eventually it ended on its own, not in a very good term, I'll just say that. And I'm now sat May this year, 9 days after my 33rd birthday, and I'm no longer caring for my partner. I'm no longer dealing with the stress of that relationship. Everything in the house is quiet. No arguing, no fighting. These thoughts of doubts that I'm having seem to be getting louder. The house and just picture me sitting on the couch where no TV on, everything around me is quiet, but the only thought that I can think is my own brain. And it's getting louder and brasser and louder, and eventually it got to the point where I can't not listen to this anymore. So I got myself onto TikTok. I spoke to other detransitioners, I spoke to other trans people. I'm like, tell me your experiences. What's going on here? Why am I feeling like this? You know, I spoke to Envy, who you're following them on TikTok now. I spoke to Envy, who is very ban gender affirming care. Um, Abolish the GRC. Let's go back to normal society here, guys. Now I agree with that. At the point I didn't, but I was introduced to Envy, but I was Caitlin at this time.
Yeah.
So then Envy's like, "I'll come up onto my panel on TikTok and we'll have a conversation." So I'm like, all right, okay. So started there. So I was a TRAGC. I was like, and that's confusing for anyone to hear. What's a
Yeah.
TRAGC? A
So
trans right
you're a
activist,
TRA
gender
and the
critical.
GC. So, but I've seen these men who say they're women, they've had whatever surgery and hormones, I'm not sure, but they'll say they're women, but then they'll say that they don't want to go into women's spaces and they know that they're men, which is quite confusing as well, as like when you're first getting into this and like learning what's going on and why it's a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's basically a trans medicalist. So a trans medicalist says you are only transsexual as if you're medicalized. Anyone else, they, thems, it, these, none of them, non-binary folk, all of that is made up and it's not trans because you're not medicalized. You never have the intention to medicalize, so
So is that
you
your
are
position
not
at this point?
transsexual. That's my position. I'm a trans
Okay.
medicalist at this point. You know,
Okay.
I think at this I'm kind of on the fence where we can't stop telling adults to not medicalize themselves, but we don't want it to be a point of where we're allowing them to invade everybody else's space, men into female spaces. This is too much. This is too much. Um, so then I started debating as Caitlin. I started speaking to other trans people, and why should you be allowed into a female space? Like, I'm medicalized.
Yeah.
I've got gynecomastia. I'm, female presenting, as you would say. Like, I'm not doing it. So why should you, who's a they, them, want to go into a female space that's never seen an estrogen patch in their life?
Yeah.
Like, you've got a beard on your face and you're wanting to invade into a woman's space. So I then started kind of thinking, and I need to decide whether I'm continuing in the medicalization process. So this is where I started speaking to detransitioners. And I spoke to, I don't know if you know him, his name is Richie Horn.
Yeah, yeah, I do know Richie.
You
I've met
heard?
him. He's from
Yeah,
the
I,
Northeast and he came to one of the Let Women Speaks that I was involved in
he's
organising.
an
So, yeah,
amazing
yeah,
man. So I spoke to him and I spoke to one of his friends, Animosity. But me and Richie had to do a private conversation. I'm not going into too much about it because it was private, but he basically told me his story. And the one advice that I'll always remember is him saying to me, um, I had the same regrets. Sorry, I had the same doubts that you had. Now they're living as regrets. I says, so what you need to weigh up, Caitlin, is if, because I'm Caitlin at this point, is if can you live with the doubts or can you live with the regret if it's not the right thing? He's like, because it's harder. And I'm like, that is fucking hard. it's hut a nerve, honestly. It is hut a nerve. So then I ended up having a conversation with my sister. I went up to Morrison's to get a meal deal because that's the highlight of my life at this point is being able to go to a supermarket and have a cheeky wee meal deal. So I'm away up Morrison's, sitting in Morrison's car park, eating my cheese and onion meal deal sandwich, and I don't know, something just told me, phone your sister. Me and my sister's always been dead close. Phone your sister. So I phoned her and I says, listen, I'm kind of at a crossroads. She's like, what is it? And I went through the whole spiel with her. Eh, And she's like, well, what's stopping you for just living your life as gay Michael? She's like, why don't you just go live your life as gay Michael and see how you feel after it? I'm like,
Yeah.
do you know what? You're very true. And then that was it. That was it. I went to Centre for Gender Clinic. I told them, right, I'm stopping detransitioning. I want nothing else to do with it. What do I do? This is where it gets even more interesting because she turns around and she says to me, oh, I don't know. I've never worked with a detransitioner. I don't know what to do. What?
So she
Uh,
does. They don't even know where to send you.
no, no. I says, right, okay, well, I've got questions. I says, how long will it be until my body goes back to a testosterone dominated body? I don't know. Well, how long will it be until the testosterone blocker comes out of my system and I start producing testosterone on my own? I
Yeah.
don't know. Am I infertile? I don't know. All of these I don't knows. And then turns around and makes a joke of saying,
Is
well, good job you didn't go through and get the bottom surgery then.
is this the person who's giving you the medication as well?
No, so this is doctor number 5.
Okay. So they're involved in prescribing, though.
Yes, yes. So they're the
Yes.
ones that kind
So
of
they
tell
should know
us,
what they're prescribing, then.
yeah, they're the ones that tell us, what you are taking.
Mhm.
It's not my original doctor in the clinic,
Yeah.
but they're the
Yeah.
ones that would make any changes to the prescriptions
Yeah.
that I'm on
Yeah.
and
Just
did make changes to the prescription that I was on. That was them that put me onto the testosterone blocker that was a 3 months injectable, which is the same one that they're trying to give kids in the puberty blocker trials, by the way. Is the exact same medication at the exact same level, and I'm 33 and 15 stone.
the exact level, even though they're children.
22.5 milligrams.
My goodness. That doesn't sound right. Like,
It's in
obviously,
the, I
I'm not a
can,
doctor, but
yeah, same, but I'll send you the protocol because I've got the protocols for it and it's in the protocols. It was one of the things that jumped out on me though, because I'm reading down and then, it says prescribed medications and then it says 22.5 milligrams and it said the name of it. And I'm like, I'm sure that's the one that I take. So I don't really look at what I'm taking because I didn't administer that. I couldn't
yeah,
administer it. I had to go to the nurse at my local
right,
GB practice to
yeah,
get it. So I would get it from the chemist, but I'd never open it up. It would always just be in the sealed chemist bag, and then I'd take it to the
yeah.
nurse, handed it and thingy. And I've looked it up, and I'm like, that is the exact one that I'm on, and I get it every 3 months. And I'm like, oh, maybe I've checked the number wrong. And I've looked at the number again, and it's 22.5 milligrams. And I'm like, that's the exact dosage that I get.
My
Like,
goodness.
I was like, I'm 33 at 15 stone. So I'm
Yeah.
wanting to give that to 9-year-olds that are probably not even 6 stone, 7 stone. Like, are you insane?
But also, what sort of levels have they got? Like in the beginning, like surely your hormone levels, your natural hormone levels should maybe have an impact on that. Obviously, I don't know that because I'm not medical and I don't prescribe. But you'd think there'd be some sort of
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, maths
Yep.
or some
Exactly.
sort of thought
Exactly.
about how much each person would get.
Mm. No, I'm
But it
not.
doesn't
I'm just
sound.
like you. I'm not medically trained, but I'm reading the
Hmm.
protocols that they've put out. I'm reading the information that they're providing.
Hmm.
So I can only go on the basis of what they're saying. If they're not telling me that, oh, what they all say is that it can be either administered between a 3 month or a 12 months period. They're not saying that, it's all even though it's a 22.5 milligrams on 3 months period, that means it's 22.5 milligrams that are spread out over the 3 months. And it's like, I'm only reading what you're saying and I'm seeing the numbers and I'm seeing it's 22.5 milligram and I'm seeing that it's the same medication I'm on. And, I'm relating it to what my experience is like, and it's
Uh-huh.
dangerous to give this drug to people as it is, never mind to give it to kids at the same level that you're giving it to adults.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound right, does it?
No, no. So that was my experience with Sandyford. I I then got told, right, what we'll do, because I had testosterone in the house because my sex drive dropped and I wanted to kind of pick it up a little bit because I was obviously engaged. Um, and I was like, right, well, can I take this testosterone that I've got here? And she's like, yeah, I don't see a problem. 1 pump per day. That might help your testosterone levels go up. Right, okay. And then I asked, but I've got a testosterone blocker in my system. Will it not block this testosterone?
Yeah,
Or does it like pick up that it's, this is artificial testosterone and not naturally producing testosterone? Is that kind of somewhere in the system it
yeah.
attacks? Well, I don't know. Just take it anyway.
God.
Like, I can't. I actually can't at this point. So at this point, I'm like, I'm getting no help. I'm getting absolutely no help to detransition. So I'm on testosterone. I got told get your bloods done after 6 months and we'll see if your testosterone have returned. Um, right, okay, that's at least a positive. So that's it. Never seen Sandyford again. I've never had any conversations with him. Didn't give me any mental health support. Bearing in mind that I've just spent 7 years living within an ideology. I'm going to obviously have some mental health difficulties after it.
Yeah,
So I go to my doctor because it's a new doctor I'm in. It's a different area. I went to my doctor and I sat down and she's like, "Oh, how can we help you?" And I just burst out crying, tears streaming down my face. And first interaction with this doctor, and you're just seeing a grown man sitting in front of you crying. So I explained everything that I've kind of been through, and even she said, she's like, "They're not giving you any help." It's not. That's not right. She sent them a letter. The doctor sent them a letter, really kicking off at this point. Like,
yeah,
why have you left this patient without any medical support? Like, we can't offer the mental health treatment that this patient needs. Like, it needs to be used. I got a referral and I am in trauma-based therapy to deal with the issues prior to transitioning. Um,
okay.
but there's no kind of detrans therapy, so to speak. And the therapist that I'm with can do everything, but isn't specialized in
Yeah,
gender therapy,
yeah.
you know.
Does your
So,
does the therapist understand what you've been through? Does it understand the issues and stuff, do you think?
do you mean the issues prior to transitioning?
Like the whole
Just
debate and
everything?
everything around
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
Yeah, they've not expressed obviously their own personal opinion, but they've listened to, my issues and the opinions that I've got, and they've very much says, there is a lot of gaps in this care
yeah,
that we've got. There's a lot of gaps. But on the same breath saying, but I don't work in that field, so I can only stay within my realms. They're obviously
yeah,
trying to protect themselves. This is a medical professional that can end up losing their license to practice if
yeah,
they come out and say, I'm against this. So they're protecting themselves, but also saying, I understand.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if it's different in Scotland, but in England, like for counsellors, it isn't regulated. So we
No,
have
I'm
got
not
professional
entirely sure.
bodies. Yeah, we
Mm,
have got professional bodies, and like a psychologist would be registered with is it HCPC, something like that. I can't remember the initials. But counsellors, like the way I trained, it's like person-centered counselling,
mm-hmm,
and it's like it's about the person in the middle, and it's the core conditions, and um, it can work
right.
with any issue. And then after you qualify, then you think about your specialism. It's basically what you're interested in, though, and like further learning and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, so
I'm
I'm
not
not
entirely
sure.
sure how it
Yeah,
is up in Scotland, to be fair. It's one thing that I know, we've up in Scotland, we've got boards for doctors, pharmacists, social works. So I would presume that there would be some sort of regulatory board for that industry also, because we've got it for everything. Even people that work in adult care is signed on to the triple SC. So it's but so that's kind of where we're at now. Um, my GP's been great. The gender clinic not so much, but from the back of my doctor sending a letter and being highly upset as a GP should be that their patient's now presenting to them with mental health difficulties that they can't assist with. Um, I've got an appointment. I think it's January that they sent an appointment out and says, well, actually, we'll see you in January now.
But this is for your mental health rather than the medication that you're like kind
I've,
of
I've
up in
no
the
idea
air.
what it's for. They
So
just
are you
sent an email
just
and said, you've got an appointment here.
like, have you been told to just keep taking the hormones?
Yeah. No one's told me to stop them. So I'm still taking testosterone. So I don't know if my testosterone levels have went back to normal. I don't know, if I'm
What about the
taking
estrogen?
too much. Estrogen, no. I've stopped taking that
Yeah, you
in May.
stopped taking it.
So I
Yeah.
don't have a blocker anymore, and I don't take a blocker, and I don't take estrogen. The only thing that I am now taking is testosterone to try and
But they haven't given you
encourage
any
my
sort
own.
of, they haven't given you any guidance on whether that's the right thing to do or how to do it or how to come
Yep.
off or anything like
Yep.
that.
So I went from one experimental treatment to another experimental treatment.
Yeah.
It's
That's
insane. It's absolutely insane. The other thing that I've got is I've got gynecomastia. So my doctor put in a referral to the plastics department in the NHS to try and see if, I would be eligible to have corrective surgery. It was refused on the basis that I have to return back to the gender clinic and get them to refer me over to them. So, like, why wasn't that done? Why am I
yeah.
now having to go back to the place where I got medicine to abuse myself for the last 5 years? What trauma is this going to cause? So I'm smiling like this
But I bet you're
because
quite
if I don't,
angry.
I'll cry.
Yeah.
Yes, I am livid.
Yeah. But as well, you've got a GRC, and your birth certificate that says you're female. So how's that working for you?
I can't change it. It's a legally binding document. There's no pathways to change it. None that I've been able to assess. I know that there's a lawyer, I can't remember her name, that is working with other people to get the GRC changed. So I'm trying to find information for that lawyer so that I can be like, can you try and help me? But ultimately, I think what needs to happen is, the detransitioners, myself included, who do have a GRC, will probably just need to take the government to court and be like, well, why are you offering it if there's no way of changing it back for people like us?
Crikey. What a mess.
Yeah. So if there's any detransitioners listening to this with a GRC and you want to take an action against the government, please hit me up. Let's do it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. So, is that everything that you wanted to talk about today? Or is there anything
Yes,
else that you wanted to
I
talk
think that
about?
really covers the timeline. Obviously now I'm becoming more and more active for detransitioners. Detransitioners don't tend to want to transition in the public eye, um, for whatever reasons, whether it's scared because of the TRAs coming after them or embarrassment or, for whatever reasons. I'm not going to be a detransitioner like that. I think we need to have detransitioners take a stance, have a voice. We are here just as much as TRAs and trans-identified individuals are. So, I'm taking something that's negative for the last 7 years and changing it into a positive so that other people don't experience what I've just went through.
Yeah, what sort of pushback have you had? Assuming you
A
have
lot,
had some.
a lot. I get daily death threats on TikTok. I get people coming up when I'm hosting lives telling me to go and kill myself. I should jump off a bridge. I get told that my parents don't love me. On Twitter, I have I have a couple of people that like to comment on every single post I put up. Which is great. We have to work that algorithm in our favor at some point. So, more interactions, the more it goes out. So please continue.
Yeah.
Um, but it's nothing that I didn't expect, really.
Yeah. I mean, TikTok's a cesspit, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
I get similar. I do. Just speaking, and when I post me clips, I do the interview and then I post the clips on like TikTok and Instagram and what have you, and I always get TRAs in the comments, and they don't like
yeah.
it. Yeah,
It's the same. I just ignored them. Like, what bearing have they got? Like, what can they realistic do other than sit in it and act like a keyboard warrior? Like, my face is out there. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to hide.
absolutely. So if anyone's watching this and they want to connect with you, where should they look for you?
Yeah, so I am on I'm on TikTok, Michael WK2. I am on Twitter and I have just changed over my Twitter handle name. I do believe it is it's still Michael WK20 on Twitter. Um I'm on YouTube. Um yeah, I've got a LinkedIn. If you go on to my TikTok, Michael WK2, you'll be able to find my LinkedIn and it's got all the social media platforms. And the same with TikTok. I've got it on my
Okay, I'll
TikTok.
go and find
Um,
all the links and I'll put them in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
There's so
Michael,
many.
thank
Yes.
you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting talking to you, and I hope you get some more help and support from your campaigning because we really do need to put something in place for detransitioners like you.
Yeah.
You've been through
Absolutely. I
enough.
100% agree. Thank you so much, Kaylee,
Yeah,
for having me and giving me the platform to speak what's happened. And hopefully the more, we're pushing the word out, the more that the government's going to listen.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to speak directly to the women listening who might be struggling in silence. So maybe you're living with the fallout of a husband or partner who's suddenly decided he's a woman, leaving you feeling confused, coerced, or even pressured into things you never consented to. Maybe you're a mother with a daughter or a son who now says they're trans, and you're carrying the heartbreak of that loss without anyone around you really understanding. Or maybe you've been cancelled, silenced, or bullied in your workplace, in your family, or even online, and you're left questioning your reality, your confidence, and your sense of self. If any of that sounds familiar, I just want you to know that you're not alone, and you don't have to keep pushing through it on your own strength, because that's exactly why I offer counselling for women. It's a private, safe, and non-judgmental space where you can say the unsayable. And I know how hard it can be to put words to feelings of betrayal, grief, or anger, especially when the world around you just wants you to be quiet. In our sessions, you'll be heard, believed, and supported without judgment. My work is grounded in person-centered counselling, but I also bring in other tools like inner child work, trauma-informed approaches, and relational models to help you uncover what's really going on beneath the surface. Together we'll explore how the past is shaping the present, untangle the dynamics of coercive or narcissistic relationships, and give you space to grieve losses that others might dismiss or deny. The women that I work with often tell me that our sessions give them clarity, strength, and the ability to start making decisions that honour their own needs, sometimes for the first time in years. And so whether you're trying to rebuild after coercion, come to terms with ambiguous loss, or simply reconnect with who you are, therapy can be the place where you start to feel like yourself again. And I offer a free, no obligation consultation so that you can see if working together feels like the right fit. There's no pressure, just a chance to talk about what you need and how I might be able to help. You can find out more at kellyoliverdougal.co.uk. You deserve a space where you are truly heard, and if this speaks to you, I'd be honoured to walk alongside you on your journey of healing and strength.